The human psyche, when faced with catastrophic betrayal, typically follows a predictable trajectory: shock, denial, anger, grief. It is a well-documented descent into emotional chaos. My story is an anomaly on that chart. For me, the discovery was not a descent, but a transformation. The moment I read that text message on my husband Aiden's phone, "Next time, don't leave the necklace," she almost saw it, was not a moment of shattering but of crystallization. The self I had been, Elara, the devoted wife, the trusting sister, did not break. She was instantly and irrevocably rendered obsolete. In her place emerged a new entity, a strategist, a psychologist, a high-functioning emotional arsonist whose fuel was not rage, but cold, analytical clarity. This is not just a story of what I did. It is a case study in the psychological recalibration that made it possible. It is an anatomy of revenge from the inside out. The cognitive shift, from emotion to analysis. The initial sting was biological, a lightning bolt of pure animalistic pain. It lasted for perhaps 3 seconds, and then something remarkable happened. My mind, as if recognizing a systemic threat, initiated an emergency protocol. It compartmentalized. The freeze response, reframed. While fight or flight are common, I entered a state of profound freeze. But this was not paralysis. It was a hyper-focused stillness, like a predator locking onto its prey. My emotions were not expressed. They were archived. The grief, the humiliation, the rage. I visualized them as files, neatly labeled and stored in a locked cabinet deep within my mind. I could access them later for analysis, but they would not be allowed to interfere with executive function. The forensics of betrayal. My primary cognitive task became data collection. I stopped being a wife and became a forensic psychologist studying my own marriage. Every interaction with Aiden was an experiment. I noted his micro-expressions, the slight dilation of his pupils when Clara's name was casually mentioned, the way his thumb would nervously stroke his phone case when he thought I wasn't looking. I mapped his deception not with a heartbroken heart, but with a clinician's dispassionate eye. This cognitive reframing was my first and most powerful act of self-preservation. By treating the betrayal as a puzzle to be solved rather than a wound to be nursed, I robbed it of its power to destroy me. This shift is rarely discussed. We are told to feel our feelings, but what happens when those feelings are a tsunami that will surely drown you? My psyche chose to build a levee instead. It was not a sign of coldness, but of an intelligence prioritizing survival above all else. So, the motivational engine, beyond rage, towards a goal. Popular culture depicts revenge as a hot, impulsive act, a scream of rage. Mine was the opposite. It was a silent, patient, goal-oriented project. The motivation was not the fleeting satisfaction of making them pay. It was the permanent, structural securing of my own future and the utter dismantling of theirs. From victim to architect, the moment I accepted the truth, I refused the identity of the victim. The role is passive, disempowered. I instead adopted the identity of an architect. Aiden and Clara had torn down my world. I would not just rebuild it. I would build a fortress in its place, one they could not penetrate. This architectural mindset provided a sense of control that was profoundly therapeutic. Every meeting with my lawyer, Ms. Davina, was not a painful reminder, but a progress report. Every piece of information I gathered was not a new wound, but a new brick for my wall. The dopamine of strategy. I began to experience a strange, cold satisfaction in the planning. Neuroscientists would likely point to the release of dopamine associated with problem-solving and goal achievement. Outsmarting them became a deeply rewarding intellectual exercise. When I successfully planted the idea for the revised will in Aiden's mind, or when I confirmed the details of his offshore account, I felt a surge of accomplishment far more potent than any tearful confrontation could have provided. I was not wallowing in my pain. I was actively, effectively engineering my escape from it. My motivation was a clean, cold thing. It was not about hatred, it was about justice as I defined it. It was about restoring a moral equilibrium that they had shattered. And in my calculus, that equilibrium could only be achieved through their total and undeniable defeat. 3. The weaponization of normality, the performance as power. Living a double life is exhausting for the deceiver, but for the deceived who becomes the deceiver, it is a deliberate, empowering performance. I was no longer Ilara. I was Ilara, a character I played for a specific audience of 2. Strategic affection. Kissing Aiden goodnight became a psychological exercise.